always forget that because I have these two cameras right here. I'm actually live right now on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn on StreamYard, and then obviously live on Instagram. So I got the two camera set up going. Hey Dan, how are you? Hey, two Dans. Hey Pierre, how's everyone doing this morning? I'm so excited to see all of you. I relaunched my business this week. Drop some emojis if you're live, if you're here. I'm so excited about it. I announced the two VPs I hired who are extremely talented, have a ton of experience in short form video, in YouTube. And we've just really changed our service offerings based on the feedback we were getting from our audience. And I want to talk about that. And I also asked for questions. And I have this whole list of questions that people submitted for me to answer, because I have to tell you that it's one of my favorite things. Thank you so much for saying congrats. I appreciate it, Pierre. And hi, Kim. How are you? So here's the thing. I love answering people's questions. It's one of the things that I do as a strategist. It's one of the things that I find really fun. It's actually why I literally have a marketing mastermind cohort. It's 9 business owners. We meet twice a month, and everyone's able to get kind of these individualized answers to their questions. But as always, I want to make sure that I am making myself accessible. So, hey, Lilybeth, how are you? So as I said, I have a list of questions that I'm going to answer today. And I'm also going to talk about kind of the journey in my own business. Hey, Tara, how are you? So here's what was happening. I wrote about this in the email that I sent to my list this week when I announced the relaunch. Hey, Sue. As I was saying, I realized that I was in an unsweet spot. What's an unsweet spot? Because we always talk about the sweet spot in business. When you find the sweet spot, you figure out exactly what your audience needs. Hey, Howard, you figure out exactly what your audience needs, and you find a way to meet them there and uplift what they're doing. That's what the sweet spot is. What the unsweet spot is where there's just something where you keep missing. And one of the things that you do as a strategist is you step back and you audit and you see, what is it? Am I talking to the wrong people? Am I talking to them at the wrong time? Am I talking to them in the wrong way? Am I talking to them with the wrong product? Am I talking to them with the wrong pricing? Yes, Sue, I'm so excited to tell everyone about this. So, candidly, we found, hey, Nikki, welcome. We found a lot of different things that we were doing in our business that were a slight miss, because we kept getting the feedback that was like, I would love to work with you, but let's be really candid about the state of the economy post-recession, not post-recession, post-pandemic and in a recession. And we weren't at the right price point. We just found that, even though there's an argument to be made that if you can show, hey, Patrice, welcome. If you can show a business owner the value that you're going to add, they're going to want to work with you. That's absolutely a true statement. But at the same time, there's so much that goes into the decision-making as a business owner that one of the things that you want to do is you want to make it frictionless. You want to make it easy. You want to make it a no-brainer. And so if the packages that you have aren't resonating with your audience, you find a way to restructure your packages in a way that makes it that no-brainer. So that's something that we did that I'm super excited about. And as I was saying, one of the things that we did is we changed the pricing on our monthly cohort so that people can ask their individualized questions. As I said, I have some that people dropped into my Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much for being here, Patrice. I'm glad you're here. And if you have any questions and you're on the live, you can type them in and I will try and get to those as well. So the first question that I had was tips to get my open rate up over email. So I love sometimes to answer questions with what I wouldn't do and then go to what I would do. So the first thing that I always say is that I wouldn't do anything gimmicky, because whenever I'm talking to my clients, we always talk about like, what is your ultimate goal? And I don't know if any of you have been on an email list from someone who you subscribe to, maybe because of a freebie or a lead magnet. But maybe you know who they are, maybe you don't. You're not like entirely sure why they're coming into your inbox. Obviously they're trying something to boost their open rate, and they send you see a subject line and it says like, so sorry to cancel our meeting, or like, Ray, your question, or following up on our call. And so you click it because you're like, oh my gosh, who's this person in my pipeline? There must be a second Sarah McCord who missed a meeting with me. And you open it up and I'm like, hey, let me tell you about my products and services and all of the things. So your open rate will artificially go way up because people are thinking that they missed a meeting or you're following up on a call. And then they'll realize that you tricked them. People don't like to buy from people who trick them. So the first thing that I would say is skip the gimmicks to get your open rates up. What you can do instead is you can rework your headlines and your preview text just to be more clickable. So one of the things that I talk to people about across everything, whether it's email headings and subject lines, whether it's, that's so true, Pierre, people do confuse gimmicks from strategy. He says, if you do one thing that makes the sale when it's several actions to make the sale, that's so true. And Tara was saying that she sees a lot of execs right now who are rebooting their business services. It's absolutely true. So the first thing to do is skip the gimmicks. And one thing you can do is that I don't know if y'all know that you can actually Google headline generators. And so one of the things that you can do, whether you're writing a blog post, whether you're sending an email subject line, if you're like, how do I make this like immediately more interesting? How do I make it a little bit more tighter? How do I make it fewer words? I actually love taking the topic of what I'm doing and putting it into a headline generator and see if it inspires me to think like, oh, I would click on that email. That's more interesting to me. And that is the one thing that I will say is that your email subject line should be like the start of a conversation. So you don't want it to be something that's just kind of like boring or flat. You want it to ask a question. You want it to pique someone's interest. But again, you want to do it in this genuine and authentic way. Okay. The next question is, what are common social media mistakes that businesses make and how can I avoid them? These are bangers. I like the fact that we're not starting off with any softballs today. Gosh, so many. So, the first thing that I would say as a strategist is just having kind of a spray and pray social media strategy where you don't have a strategy. As a creative, I absolutely honor the fact that you're going to have certain days where just something comes to mind. There's something you're passionate about. It's on your heart. You want to talk about it. You know, you want to share it. Or maybe you're someone you share more in the lifestyle vein and you just capture a beautiful moment and you want to share it with your audience. Certainly, I think that there has to be moments in your content plan for authenticity. Certainly, you constantly want to be generating that connection with your audience. But one way that people feel like they're hitting their head against the wall and they're failing is if they have literally no strategy. Because a few things will happen. First of all, you'll see that you are having these moments on social media where it's like, go, go, go. You're feeling really inspired. You're posting once a day. You do that for 3 weeks. You do that for a month. You do that for 60 days. And then all of a sudden, it's like your creative well is drained. You feel like you don't have anything to say and you go away. And that confuses your audience. Now, I always say that it's okay to use social media as a portfolio. It doesn't have to be consistent 100% of the time. It absolutely varies regarding the platform that you're on, regarding your overall strategy. But I will say this at the same time too. Let's harken back to a time when a lot of people watched morning television. I feel like now that streaming's so big, I don't feel like maybe that's as common. But like I remember Good Morning America and Today's Show, like being the thing growing up, early morning programming and kind of going head to head and like, who was going to lead the pack. I want you to imagine if you had someone who was like 100% in the category of the Today Show or 100% in the category of Good Morning America, but then Good Morning America just wasn't on for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I imagine that person who liked waking up with morning television every morning would try the other show because they wanted someone to continue to show up for them. So the first reason why you need a strategy is that it will give you the opportunity to plan your content out far enough in advance that if you have a life event, if you have a lack of inspiration, whatever the case may be, you know that your content will stay consistent enough for you and your audience that they're not going to feel like they need to be served by someone else for that consistent presence that they really care about. The next common mistake that I would say business owners make, and I feel like I could do a whole training on this. I feel like I could do a whole course on this. So we'll just hit on a couple today and maybe I'll come back to it in next week's live. Another common mistake is honestly leaning too hard into the trends. And what I mean by that is with the best of intentions, small business owners will be like, I have to use trending audio. I have to do the trending dance. I have to. And they end up spending all of their time, again, instead of thinking, what do I offer my audience? What can I share with my audience? How do I want to share it with them? They're literally thinking, okay, how do I take my service and fit it into this trending 7-second audio? And that's the wrong question to be asking. You should always be thinking, how can I share this with my audience? Not how can I fit this into a 3-part dance? So those are a couple things that rise to the surface for me. One other thing that I'll say is that like if your social media presence absolutely never tells anyone what you do and how you do it, they're never going to hire you because they're not going to know what you do and how you do it. Hey, Natasha. Hey, Dr. Nicholas. Hey, Akashi, I'm so excited. So many people are joining me this morning. So exciting. Okay, next question. How should we be using LinkedIn for marketing? All right, shameless plug. If y'all go to my website, www.sarahmccord.com, I literally have a freebie right now that's 4 ways to boost your LinkedIn profile in the next hour. So the first thing that I would say is just go over to my website, sarahmccord.com, download that baby, because the first thing that you want before you're marketing on LinkedIn is an updated profile. It's literally the difference between if you are bumping into someone and you are telling them what you've been up to recently and how you can serve them versus what you were doing 5 years ago, which would probably seem less relevant. It makes you seem like you care about your presence on the platform. And I share great tips there for how to have a profile that makes people want to connect. So the first thing that you have to do is, it's almost like if you're inviting guests into your home, you want to make sure that you're prepared to have them over. You want to clean your home. You want to have some food. So the first thing you got to do is you got to get your profile cleaned up. The second thing that I would say as far as using LinkedIn for marketing, please, 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 please don't do cold DMs. Listen, I know that there are some people out there who convert off of cold DMs. I know that you can make any strategy convert, but candidly, I see so many more people get them wrong than get them right. And I have literally, I've been talking about cold DMs on LinkedIn like a telemarketer calling you during dinner. That's what it feels like to me. And so the other thing that I'll say is that, going back to this analogy of like, if you're having people over to your home, if you are using a cold DM strategy on LinkedIn, it would almost be like if someone came up to your door and you slammed it in their face. Because whenever someone sends me a cold DM, the first message they send me is a pitch. Hey, Sarah McCord, I was looking at your profile and I want to tell you how I can grow your business. I have no interest in connecting with that person. I have no interest in connecting with them. I have no interest in buying from them and building a relationship with them. So the first thing you need to do is update your profile. The second thing that you need to do is not cold DM people. And then you say, okay, well, what's the opposite of that? Well, the opposite of that would be warm DMing. How do you warm DM people on LinkedIn? Well, it's a few things. First of all, you follow the people you want to connect with. Second of all, you engage with their content. Third of all, you create some content yourself. And then you send them a message about kind of the different, I know that a lot of people hate the word synergy. They think that it's too jargony, but it's the one that's coming to mind for me. You send them a message about really why you think it would be mutually beneficial for you all to connect. And because you've legitimately been following them, been engaging with their content, been posting yourself, you can say, hey, Natasha, I've been noticing the fact that you post this, this, and this in LinkedIn. I really enjoy it. Let's connect. Or, hey, Tomas, I see that we have this person and this person and this person in common, and I'd really like to connect with you and talk about it. So you want to make sure that it's a real connection request on LinkedIn before you even begin marketing. Now, a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, how much time do I have to spend on LinkedIn to do this? You can literally spend about 15 minutes a day once you update your profile on LinkedIn, posting a status, commenting on someone else's, and connecting with someone. It doesn't have to be exorbitant. It just has to be intentional. Okay. How does my company maintain brand integrity in the midst of a tough market? I got this question on Instagram yesterday, and I couldn't love this question anymore because we are a values-driven firm. And the idea of maintaining integrity and maintaining brand integrity is so fundamental to what we do that I just absolutely love this question. The first thing, in order to have integrity, you have to be kind of grounded in what your values are. So, for example, if you're saying, how do I maintain brand integrity? The first thing is you have to know what your brand stands for. That's the only way that you're going to be able to live into it. So you have to do that work of figuring out your brand values, your brand differentiators, and what you stand for. And then the next thing is, it's one of those things where it's always like, it's easy to stand in integrity when it's easy, but it matters when it's hard. And so another thing that I would remind you is that, like, you don't want to be a fair weather fan kind of person. You know what I mean? You want to be someone who really sticks in that brand integrity. And actually, I think that it will help you in a tough market. Because if you just run after absolutely any monetization opportunity because you're running scared because it's a tough market and you sacrifice your brand, that's actually going to really reflect poorly on you for your core audience and for your future clientele. However, if what you're doing is you're standing that brand integrity and you're talking about it, that's actually going to pull your right fit person to you. That's a big part of attract, repel marketing. Okay. What keeps you motivated and positive to push forward? You know, it's so funny. Someone said to me yesterday, they were like, how are you smiling right now? You have so much going on. I do have so much going on. And I was saying, I actually think one of my superpowers is just like unyielding optimism in all situations. And to be candid, it goes back to being a strategist. It goes back to being goal driven. I can kind of say to myself, like, and I don't ignore my feelings and I don't ignore the feelings of others and I don't suggest toxic positivity or anything like that. But I will kind of say, like, regardless of what's going on in my life, I say, like, what's going to serve me? What's going to serve me now? And what's going to serve future me? And even just like taking that moment to step back and check in, you can kind of say to yourself, like, oh, do you know what? Like, and again, sometimes you need to take a walk, to take a yoga class, to take a nap, to eat something, whatever, to call a friend, to journal. And if you need those things, do those things. But I think as a business owner, if you kind of say almost like what's going to make tomorrow me feel good, it's going to be if you don't let whatever the BS is get you down. And it's going to be if you continue on your path and lean into the things that you really want to be doing with your business and the people you want to serve and whatever is inspiring you. I'm looking down at my questions. That's where I'm looking to make sure that I'm getting everyone's questions. Tips on driving traffic to your website. As I said, I love how every single one of these questions could be a full-on masterclass. And again, I'll just remind you that I have a monthly consulting cohort. It's for, I max out every cohort at 9 business owners to make sure that it's a small, tight-knit group so that everyone gets individualized attention. And that's literally what it is. It's a live Q&A within our in-group for you to ask me questions and for me to answer them and for you to get live, individualized, customized advice and also free bonus trainings and a bunch of other fun stuff. You can find out about that on my website as well. But that's where, like, as I said, with a lot of these questions, I could teach an entire masterclass on it. Or if you asked me this question, what I would do if you were in my mastermind or if you were in my cohort is I would ask you a series of questions back before I just was like, here's the social media content that converts. Here's how you drive traffic to your website. I would ask you about your product or service. I would ask you what you're selling on your website. I would ask you if you have experience with Google Ads. I would ask you what your social media presence is like. I would ask you what your audience is looking for because you would get a different answer based on whatever your individualized circumstance was. So again, I think that when we talk about driving traffic to a website, maybe the fastest and easiest way to categorize and understand it is to think about paid and unpaid. So are you paying to drive traffic to your website or are you using organic? If you're using paid and you're using something like Google Ads or any ads on social media or anything like that to drive to your website, then I think that there are a few things to keep in mind. The first is that you want to optimize your copy. The second is that you want to know exactly what your audience is looking for. And the third is that generally, if you're pushing to a free lead magnet, you'll see better traffic and a higher conversion rate than if you're pushing directly to a paid service. If you are doing organic, then some of the keys I think to driving traffic to your website, once again, like you have to make it as frictionless as possible and you have to make the entire funnel obvious and accessible to your audience. So they need to know how you serve them, how they can find out more, where they should go. It shouldn't be a guessing game. It is literally proven that calls to action like, Claire, share, click, comment, follow, tag, whatever the case may be, if you literally put that in your copy, it is that much more likely that someone is going to do that thing. So if you want to drive traffic to your website, you need to tell people on your own TikTok, tell them to click the link in your stand store. If you are on all of these platforms like I am right now, I've said a few times, listen, I have this mastermind cohort. I have this free LinkedIn magnet. I have a host of other services, and you're going to find out about them on my website. And if I hadn't said that on the live, and I just assumed people would like know somewhere in their brain that they should go find my website, that it was my name, that's www.sarahmccord.com. If I just assumed that people would read my mind and know that, I wouldn't get the same traction that I'm going to get by actually telling people that. There was one other thing that I wanted to say. So we talked about paid, we talked about organic. There was one other point that I had on driving traffic to your website. I know what it was. This is one of the most important things when it comes to the question, how do I get more traffic on my website? So wherever you are, if you're watching this, you want to take notes, you want to pay attention. I'm also like looking at my team, like we're going to clip this. We're going to clip this for real. This is one of the most important things for driving traffic to the website. You have to remember that there are two ways to use traffic to get more customers. One is to get more traffic to your website and keep your conversion rate the exact same. You keep everything on your website the exact same, and you just get more people there so that if you can convert a certain percent of every human who comes to your website, you send more humans and you keep that conversion rate the exact same, and there you get more sales. The other option that not enough people consider, especially if you're doing some kind of paid traffic, is that before you send more people to your website, if you optimize your website so that your conversion rate is higher, then you can have the exact same number of people come to your website and you'll get more sales, which means that when you send more people to your website, you'll get exponentially more sales than if you just sent the people and kept the conversion rate the same. So if you're asking me, the order of operations is to improve the conversion rate on your website, then send the traffic. I kind of feel like that's the mic drop that we should end the live on. So again, I am looking at comments across platforms. It's the Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace moment. If you have one more question, we went through the list, but if you have another question for me, I am live. Hey, Alan, I just said it's the end of the live. Hey, James, how are you? So a reminder, if you are someone who had actually been looking at the mastermind cohort last month, we did discount the pricing. So you definitely want to go to my website, check that out, get your questions answered live individually for you, or we'll literally be going through your platforms and your website when I'm teaching questions like this, answering questions like this. Grab that free LinkedIn magnet and join me next week. All right. I'm super excited you're here. Bye.